Joe, yesterday, EA Sports, who I believe has been doing an absolutely perfect job in building this video game. The excitement is on another level. I have loved everything that they have done until yesterday, because yesterday they came out with their list of top 10, but you said top 25. Maybe I just missed the top 25, but
they posted the full top 25 in a separate article. Do you want me to read the whole thing?
No, I mean, I got it right here. I'm about to put it up on the screen here. But here is the top 10 list from EA Sports of the toughest places to play in college football. Number 1, Kyle Field. Number 2, Bryant-Denny. Number 3, Tiger Stadium. Number 4, Ohio Stadium. Number 5, Sanford Stadium, Beaver Stadium, Pitt State. Number 6, Camp Randall. Glad to see Camp Randall up there, though, man. Gaylord Family, Oklahoma Memorial Stadium, Oklahoma at number 8, Doak Campbell at number 9, and Ben Hill Griffin Stadium at number 10. Joe, I got to admit something here, okay? I don't want to go off on this long tangent because I want to, we got lots that we got to get to here. Here's my top 10 list, but I'm going to stop at number 1. Tiger Stadium, Death Valley, without a shadow of a doubt, has got to be the number 1 on any list when it comes to toughest places to play in the country. I'm biased on a lot of things. I'll never admit it. I am completely biased on this one. I have been to a lot of these stadiums, these SEC stadiums. No place at night on the road is it a tougher environment or place to play in more than Death Valley. Joe, the ground shakes. If anybody wants to remember something, remember the 2022 Alabama game, Joe, when you literally couldn't hear Kirk Herbstreit and Chris Fowler on the call because when Jane Daniels throws a corner route in the back of the end zone for a touchdown to retake the lead over the great Nick Saban in year 1 under Brian Kelly, the place literally hit a Richter scale. Joe, the ground was shaking so much that they thought a fucking earthquake was going on. It's not the first time it's happened in Baton Rouge. It happens, Joe, maybe once, twice a decade. That is the place that you're walking into. Joe, when I promise you, when you get in there and you're on the sidelines, which I have been on during a game, I've posted photos of them when I used to be on the sidelines during games. Joe, your ears are going to ring for a week. That is how loud that place can be. I will not personally hear anybody's argument of it not being number 1. If you are a purist of a college football fan, come to the Ole Miss game this year. Come to the Alabama game this year. That place is going to shake. I promise you it will. I know I went on a long tangent about it, but, buddy, that place to me, there's no other place greater in the world than Death Valley Tiger Stadium.
Just to throw mine up here, yes. I have Tiger Stadium at number 1 as well. We'll end up reading these out in a second. But the hat, again, to reiterate for the 500th time for new viewers, I'm not an LSU fan. The furthest thing from it, I lost a bet. I'm wearing the damn hat for the whole offseason, blah, blah, blah. I've never been to Tiger Stadium. So, we're going to get ahead of that. But I was deliberate in trying to find information that was going to help me build a case for each of the stadiums that I have so that I'm not just going off of what looks cool on TV. I'd sound like a goddamn dumbass if I did that. I tried to find how certain teams did and performed since a certain time frame against the spread at home. And I was able to find since 2013 a number of top stadiums that were in this upper echelon, and then I ranked them just based on some other things on what you hear people say. Tiger Stadium was one of the highest. They were tied with a couple others, but they were 56% of the time against the spread. So they were performing better than what Vegas thought that they were going to do, whether they were favored, not favored, which I'm sure doesn't happen often. They are impossible to beat at home. They are one of the few teams that has not only lived up to the difficulty of their environment that they create, but also the performance on their field. That is what I think was missed with what was created by this list by EA, is that they're basing it off of the vibe. They're basing it off of the loudness, the noise, all of these things, without truly calculating who actually backs it up with their performance. And you listen to anybody, not even you. I ignored you on this. I made sure to ignore you on this. Anybody that I listened to yesterday.
What an asshole.
Everybody. Well, I can't listen to you because you're biased. Anybody that I heard share a take on this, like 90% of them said, why wasn't Tiger Stadium number one? It was very, very consistent that Tiger Stadium was considered to be at least one or two by anybody that shared takes on this. So they are deservedly should have been the number one, not Kyle Field. And anyone you ask that's been to that stadium or watched a game in there will tell you it's loud as shit and it's tough as hell to play there.
And look, I know that you went viral because you were defending the team that you root for, okay?
In
Kyle
jest,
Field.
in jest.
In jest, correct. Kyle Field is a very tough place to play in. I don't give two shits. You know, like I saw, what was it, Bud Elliott or somebody, I don't know who it was. They're 24-20, and I even poke fun of them about it too. It don't matter. Joe, there's no reason that those Jimbo teams should have played teams as close as they did. Joe, there's no reason that Alabama a year ago has any business being a field goal by Jimbo call away from literally losing to A&M, which, by the way, might have kept Jimbo's job. Okay? Yeah. That place is electric. We make fun of them all the time. And speaking about Kyle Field, I know they got some cult-like things that happened to him. I just got 15 minutes worth of us discussing of why I was sticking up for him. It has no business in the top five. And that is, if you would have said Ben Hill Griffin Stadium number one, as a Tiger fan, you know what the truth is? I'd have been like, you know what? I'm going to defend Tiger Stadium here. They ain't lying, because I've been to both, and I've been to electric games in both. They're not lying. And so Kyle Field just has no business being in the top five. Now, I'll go down the rest of our list here, but I didn't read mine off. But Ben Hill Griffin Stadium, number two. Neyland Stadium, Tennessee, number three. Beaver Stadium, Penn State, number four. Jordan Hare, Joe, I think is being vastly missed by people here.
Yeah, let me quickly read mine, and I want to talk about that because that's one that stands out to me. So I have Tiger Stadium 1, the Big House 2 of Michigan, number 3, Ohio Stadium for Ohio State, number 4, Jordan Hare Stadium for Auburn, and then number 5, Ben Hill Griffin for Florida. So you brought up Jordan Hare there. They're a very difficult place to play, but has not had consistently ranked teams over the past decade. They haven't consistently had top 10 teams. Now, they've obviously had some national championship competing programs in this time span that we've seen. But despite this, despite with Brian Harsin, despite with last year with Hugh Freeze with a pretty barren roster that he was left with, they're 53% against the spread, and they're very successful in that top upper echelon of teams. I think that what really truly epitomizes how difficult it is to play at Jordan Hare is the fact that last season against Alabama, what they did to keep that game close and to be up and leading when everybody and their mother knew that there was a talent gap between those two teams, despite the fact that Peyton Thorne could barely throw the damn football. They were able to almost accomplish what would have been one of the greatest upsets in that rivalry if it had happened. So, yeah, that is enough proof for me that they should have been in the top 5.
Didn't even get – I mean, I guess the game was more night-ish at the end of it.
Yeah.
But that game wasn't even at night. But you know what, Joe, that is so interesting in all this? They also almost beat Georgia.
Right, and that gets forgotten.
And it gets
a banged up Georgia team, but yes, it does get forgotten.
Joe,
they also lost to New Mexico State, so we gotta remember that.
Okay, Saban also joked this past week about losing a ULM. Okay, and saying that the guy at the gas station said that Nick Saban ain't gonna pan out, and that Saban's checking out. He goes, "Yeah, I don't think he is." I find it abysmal. I find it abysmal that you put like Outson Stadium ahead of Jordan Hare. Like,
I don't mind Outson. You know what? The one that actually should have absolutely been higher that I didn't make my top 5 was Utah Stadium. That one is for like a lot of categories consistently tough to play at. But one thing that doesn't get talked about is how tough it is to get there, the altitude. A lot of people go there to die is the easiest way to put it. That one didn't make either of our top fives. I kind of deliberated on it, but that's a really, really unique one. Probably the toughest one out west for anybody to play at.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. It just, it's Utah.
So, man, I think you're discounting how crazy that environment can get, dude. Think about how many times you and I are doing a preview.
It can get very loud. I get it. It's tough to play there. It's really
think
tough.
How many times we do a preview and we go, oh, they got they're go to BYU. BYU's not going to be very good this upcoming year, but think of how many times we just bring up having to play in that environment. I think it's worth discussing. Wait, I want to see if can I just bring up here. I didn't want to put Beaver Stadium on here. I don't think Beaver Stadium is top 5 worthy. I think that they're certainly top 10 worthy because of how crazy
meanwhile, you got the Big House on yours at number 2.
Wait, okay, the Big House was tied with Tiger Stadium with performance against the spread. And also, over the last 4 years, they've been a ridiculously hard place to win away games. They've been unbelievably tough to win.
Okay, yes, it's difficult to win there. You also
could the biggest stadium in college football.
You also could hit 2 seat cushions together, and you could hear it all the way across the other stadium. And that place ain't rocking like that.
I know it's considered to not be as loud as Beaver, but on-field success again matters. I think that shit matters.
Oh my God!
Think of the amount of times that Michigan and Ohio State in the past 5 years that have traveled to go to Penn State and that they've won. It's happened too many times. For them to be top 5? It's supposed to help you when you're close match. Last year's a good example.
Meanwhile, you say that. Meanwhile, we have Florida and Auburn on our lists.
I think that, I found a statistic that supported Auburn, okay? But also the other part of this is because at least they're covering. That's the whole point here. It's not always win-loss. It's covering, I think, is the important thing because there could be years where your team stinks, but you still find a way to play a team close. Ben Hill Griffin was the only one that I put on there that I didn't have a great number argument to bring up. But I think you and I could both agree that place weird things happens. And we just haven't been given the opportunity to see a good coach in there. Once they get a good coach back there, that is going to be a tough place.
The thing is that they haven't had good coaching and they still have been absolutely packing that place. Jorts are everywhere. Overalls are everywhere. Men that wear jean shorts. It might be the stupidest thing alive, but they are going to be there. Joe, look, you have lived in the northern part of this state. I have lived in the southern part of the state. There is no place more difficult to play than Ben Hill Griffin Stadium.
Yeah, I know.
It's not their fault that Napier sucks. It legitimately is not their fault. Joe, I remember during COVID, and then I think the year after COVID, Nick went in there twice and barely scathed out alive. By the way, he was almost losing to a 6-6 Florida team. Right? We're talking about a place when it is right. Well, it hadn't been right in 10 years. Not really. 1 year under Dan, McElwain a little bit, whatever. Napier, it has not been. When that place is rolling, it's rolling. And again, I think it's the second toughest place to play in the country. Forget Napier. Forget what's going on there. It's not their fault that he's buffoons. But, Joe, I got to admit, they were a score away from most of the game from beating the SEC champion, not just in 2022. So I look at them and say, look, you go in there, shit gets nuts, man. They play Richard Petty coming into the fourth quarter. Hey, baby, the most Florida shit that you could do. It's literally the most Florida shit you can do. There's just no place like it, man. Because of the high walls and everything, this gets condensed right there. Dude, it feels like people are on top of you. They're so close.
I think that's the really good way of putting it is that they have been really in a hole the last 3 coaches that they've had. Because
No doubt.
Muschamp, Mullen, and
And
Napier.
McElwain.
Oh, and McElwain. So it's 4 coaches. It's been a streak of
Well,
4
who would be
coaches.
the other one? It was McElwain, Dan, and then Napier.
Muschamp.
Oh, fuck. I forgot about Muschamp.
Yeah, I mean, it's been that long since Urban Meyer
God,
had
dog.
a consistently
Oh, my
good
God.
coach. But I almost wonder if Ben Hill Griffin Stadium's not as big as it is for them, how much worse their record could have been during this time span, because it certainly has helped them steal games that they probably had no business keeping close at the very least. So, man, I fear for the day that they hire, maybe it's Lane Kiffin, as you keep trying to joke about, that they hire somebody. We have a couple contributions.
Yeah, I see him.
If you want to bring
Elk says, come on, Joe. Big House is known for being quiet. Shaking my head. He also says, easy for on-field success when you cheat, Joe.
I knew Elks was going to come in firing with this. Okay, look, I get that, but you guys also let Michigan beat you at home in the past couple of years, so they deserve to be ranked ahead of you. I understand, and I know this. I'm not like this isn't something I ignored. I understand it's something that is very commonly discussed, that the Big House is not as loud as it could be despite its size because it's so open. The bowl is so open. There's not a lot of trap noise.
All of that's what she said.
But at the same time,
you can't use the hand motions and talk about it being that big and the whole gashing wide open. You can't do that. Okay, I can't help myself.
At the same time, they have had a tremendous success rate over the past 10 years and in the history of the sport. By the way, I will say, side note, I was doing a little bit of
Oregon fans think I hate on them. I was their biggest defender all year last year.
You were. It's just because you speak negatively on them on random things, so you sound like an a-hole sometimes.
You got a whole bunch of old fuckers in that stadium that don't scream worth a damn.
It's also I think the downside with Autzen is just it's not as big as some of these other stadiums, but I've heard it's incredibly loud. I mean, it's a very tough place to play.
Cody McGee says, I think Sanford Stadium at Georgia beats out Ben Hill Griffin, Florida. No way.
Yeah, I've heard. I mean, it's a tough place to play, but I've heard that place is kind of on the lower side of just noise.
In their defense, and what they will tell you, which is true, they have not had premier night games at home.
Right, they rarely do it.
It rarely happens to them, and I think that they need it more because shit will get so weird and does in the South at night.
Well, it's just like how Bryant Denny didn't make our list, and a lot of people that chimed in on this yesterday, the real ball knowers, they said that of course
it is if Saban's there.
If we just pull up performance over the last 20 years, yes, obviously Georgia and obviously Alabama perform the best on those fields, but you got to take into account who's on those fields. It's two of the best dynasties that have appeared in college football in the history of the sport. Like, of course they're going to win most of their games under Kirby Smart and under Nick Saban.
But how does DeBoer do? And that is the ultimate question.
BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts.